Hi there, my name is JK, you know me as Alucard J, and this is continuing on with my video version of the SlenderGuide. Now, the last video was a little bit of a botch up, and I'm not incredibly happy since I wanted to make this very clear and very simple for people, but I don't know what happened. I lost my trees and my grass. What I did is simply re-imported my terrain. It was as simple as that. I re-imported my terrain and it was all there. So if you're worried about such things happening to yourself, maybe I'd suggest doing what I did. Grab your whole scene, export it. Alright? Export package. You see there? This is how it happened. And you see, even though I clicked on the scene, every asset that is involved with that scene has been included in my export. It's as simple as that. Alright, so that's how I built my terrain to bring to this project. And as you can see, just by one little thing, it proved very useful. I didn't lose it. So save, save, save. Even exporting is saving. Save, save, save. Speaking of save, I still haven't saved the scene. Before I lose that and my enemy, we shall hit save. Now, with the troubleshooting, I'm not quite sure where I left off. So let's have a quick look at things. We've created an enemy with a capsule collider and a rigid body. I've shown you two methods of including graphics. You can either use a 3D model or you can use a 2D sprite. Okay? Groovy. Alright, so we're absolutely back where we were. Looking back at the enemy, we created an enemy script, which I have now also indented, so I could just show you a few things. And we'll slowly go through what I wanted to do. As you can see, I haven't attached the script to this enemy yet, so we've created the enemy script already. We copied everything here. We pasted it into the enemy script. We've correctly fixed the indentation so we can read it. And there's no compilation errors, so we are going to attach the script to our enemy. Okay, as before, it has brought in its own audio source. We don't want it to play on awake. I'm going to hit save right now. I'm not sure what happens still. Okay, quick look at the script. If you remember, the player looked for the enemy. That's why it threw errors when it first happened. And I should explain that. I haven't renamed that as I said in step 1 or step 2 to player. So we still have first person control. Make sure your player is named player. Okay, so we have the player with graphics, main camera, the spotlight. Let's go find him. Yeah, all is well. Okay, so we've renamed our player as player. Our enemy is enemy. Back to the script. So the player, that will find itself. Let's just do it in this view. Okay, so the player, similar to collect papers. If we haven't dropped this into the inspector, we're going to go and look for it. So the enemy script. If the player is null, we haven't put the player in the inspector. Pretty empty right there. Then we are going to find. I think I mentioned it in the last one. I'm a bit lost with that error. The terrain. Now this is in two parts. Game object find player. We're looking for the transform. So if there's no player, this will most certainly throw an error. But I hope that you have a player, because that's got the camera and everything. Just make sure you name him. Okay, so the enemy will find the player by itself if you haven't dropped it in the inspector. So I tried to make it kind of safe. Okay, we have a speed for the enemy. That's his constant movement. Okay, a whole bunch of variables that won't make sense, especially if you don't understand dot product. I will get to that. Is in range. That's yes or no. Follow distance. Okay, so we start at 24. Every time we pick up a paper, oh yeah, see, max visible distance is 25 because of the range of the flashlight. and you don't want him to be 100 meters away and getting picked up for seeing. Alright. We have 24 there, max visible distance, that is at 25. We're starting at 24. Every time we pick up a paper, we reduce follow distance by 3.1. So it's going to drop down to, oh gosh, I can't do my maths already, 20.9. 21.9. Okay, so each time you pick a paper, he's going to come closer and closer and closer and closer. Alright, here's where the difference between a written guide and a visual guide is the difference. Health is on the enemy. Now, this isn't the enemy health, this is the player health, but just to make two scripts and to be able to explain it on paper form, I've put all the health on here. Okay? Damage, it's 20 off the health per second. So if we calculate that out, 24, okay, so it takes 5 seconds for you to lose all your health. I think that's enough time. If you want to make it faster, but you kind of want to get them a little peek of that model, They want to see it, they want to get scared, they'll look away quickly, but some people just want to take a little peek. So we've got that there for them. Alright, so that's just explaining the various. Enemy sighted, let's get back to that. Have a sound clip for that. Explosion. Okay. So, I hope everything there except this great big middle detection bit is clear. Let's save the scene and have a quick look at the script. Okay, all those variables is in range, that kind of thing. Okay, at the start, we find our player and we store a reference to our enemy transform. Okay, every update, we're going to check if off screen. Okay, if we're off screen, this is a boolean, we're going to move the enemy. Okay, and you can't see him, so you want your sanity to come back, so you're going to restore health. Okay, so that's when he's off screen. If he's not off screen, we're going to check if he's visible. I really need to explain what these two things are. So I don't know if I put the picture on this forum, this answer, or the other answer. No, it's on the other answer. So, I just want to kind of explain the logic behind what's happening in that massive enemy script without just reeling off things and getting lost. This is what needs to be cleaned up. There's stuff everywhere. And these are just the two questions I keep track of. Okay, this is what's happening. The center is your player, and you imagine this is his field of view. Alright? So, the outer ones, 0.7 now, I'll get to that, is as much as the enemy can see. Now what I did is I've given it a little buffer. Alright? So you don't want him just to have his arm poking through or just a little bit. We want to make sure it's just like the full guy there. Give it a real confirmed sighting. So I've just given a little buffer there. Now what happens is in this grey area, you can't see him. He's going to walk around. Okay? In this orange bit, he's not going to walk around. Just in case you do see his arm, he's not going to move. Alright? But you're not going to lose health. Alright, but this is such a small margin when I get into the details. Now you see the red part is, he's definitely in view. Alright, I mentioned the variable max visible distance. Okay, there's our 24, 25. Okay, so anything past there, he's out here somewhere. Even if he's off there and you kind of see him, it's not going to go off. Alright, it's up to you to play with the max visible distance to what you think is fair. Alright. So then we've got the second one, the follow distance. As I said, that starts at 24 meters. So you can see there's a very thin gap here. He's not going to move at the start. You pick up a paper, comes down to 20.9, bang. Alright? So if he is from that point out, so imagine a circle here. So from that point out, if he's not visible, he's going to start walking. And then it should be self-explanatory. It's just going to keep coming closer and closer and closer. So this grey bit is going to be filled up to here. His spacing is going to move right behind you when you picked up nearly all of them. Okay, so this is the field of view. Now what is this dot? What is this dot product all about? Let's have a quick look. Okay, check if off screen. check if off screen we get the players forward. Okay, so let's just tear that off. Okay, that looks groovy. Okay, so we're just declaring and assigning a variable forward, which is the player forward. So basically we're saying, okay, build a straight line here. Okay, that's our forward. 0, 0. Forward, forward. Okay. Other is the enemy position minus the player position. Okay, I'll get to normalize in a minute. Alright, so the enemy position minus the player position. So we're going to get a vector that's in relation to the player. Like so, if it's dead in front, it's going to be what, 0 on the x, 0 on the y, but it's going to be like 2 or 3 out here, which brings me into the normalize. Normalize will give you a vector 3 value that has a magnitude between 0 and 1. Okay, it's going to cap it out at 1. So if you're looking at a vector of 45 degrees, it's not going to give you 1, 0, 1. It's going to give you 0.7, 0.7, because the max distance from this point to the 45 will be 1. Alright, so it's only ever going to give you a max distance of 1. That is normalized, okay? So basically I'm saying this is forward. I'm getting a value for the player, for the enemy, around here. Okay? Then we come to the guts of it. Vector 3 dot. You know what? I'm even going to open up a script reference. Okay, let's just use my local one. Dots. Let's have a look. There we go. Okay, for normalized vectors, that's why I've normalized, because I only want to do calculations. I want to keep them the same between 0 and 1. Okay. Now let's have a look at this. Dot returns 1 if the point is exactly the same direction. I'll stop there. Let's explain it. Okay, so we've set the player forward. Okay. Now, if the enemy is standing right here on the forward, this dot is going to return 1. Okay? Exactly the same direction. Now, oppositely, minus 1 if they're in the opposite direction. So, if the player's facing forward and the enemy's here, it's minus 1. So let's have a look at that. We're going 1, 0, 0, minus 1. Okay? So what dot is kind of doing, there's another one called vector 3 angle, which does the same thing, but I've worked with dots, so I know what that's doing. Okay? So now these numbers here are starting to make sense. Alright, so if 1 is in front, minus 1 is behind, well look, I've even written it there. 0, 0 is directly beside the player. We can get like a rough angle between 0 and 1, and this is where my whole dot thing is coming in. Alright? So look, we've got off-screen dot range, 0.7. Okay? So there it is there. If our forward and the enemy returns a vector 3 dot, let's just say 0.5. Okay? So he's sitting out here, 0.5. He's not in a visible range. Alright? But if it brought out 0.82, okay, so the player's here, the enemy's here. Well, the enemy could be here, that angle, right? 0.82. He is definitely within the off-screen dot range, and he's also within the visible dot range. Hopefully, it doesn't explain the guts, but hopefully that explains why there is 2 checks. Okay? And this is why I've done it this way instead of the simple renderer is visible method. Sure, you could just go, hey, if renderer is visible, damage me. But this gives you some more fine tuning. You can play around with this stuff. Alright, so check if off screen. Vector 3 dots. So we're getting, between the player and the enemy, we're getting a value between minus 1 and 1. If that value is less, okay, so if it's from, if it's less than 0.7, 0.6, it's off screen. Otherwise, it's on screen. It's somewhere in between the yellow and the red. Alright? So we go back up. If it's off screen, like I said, we move the enemy and we restore our sanity. Okay, if it's not in the grey area, now we're checking if we're orange or if we're red. Okay? Check if visible. Just go find that, jump down. There's a little bit more in here. Okay? So it's pretty much the same start. We want to find our forward. We want to find the enemy's position in relation to us. We get our -1 to 1 dot value back. Okay, if the product that is greater, okay, so if it's 0.8 or above, then we are in the red zone. Okay, so something's going to happen. So we check the max visible range. I'm starting to get right into it. Okay. So visible range is basically just checking a distance. Okay, it's trying to find out if the enemy is within this or if the enemy's out here somewhere. Okay, the point of that being, if he's in range, if he's in the coloured area, he's going to start doing damage to your sanity. Alright, so if he's in range, true or false. Let's go back to where we found that. Okay, if he is in this red zone, alright, then we're going to do a final check. We're going to do a line cast because we know where the enemy is and we know where we are. So we don't need to do a ray cast with an angle. We can just say, hey, draw a ray line cast, okay, from this point to this point, okay, and we're going to check everything in between. All right. So if there's a building, if there's a tree, if there's a hill in between the two, the line cast will pick it up. All right. And I've just put a debug in here. Whatever the line cast returns, the enemy sees terrain, building, player. Okay? We're checking for player. If there's nothing in the way and the enemy can see the player, is visible is true. So we're in trouble. Okay, so we jump all the way out of all this check if visible. Come back to the up if visible. Okay, we can see him and it's all starting to happen now. I'm hoping this is making sense. If he's visible in the red area, we deduct health and tell the enemy to stop moving. Okay? Now I've got a little groovy check in here. Okay, so every time he comes within range, it's going to set this to true. Okay? So it hasn't when we first come is visible, it should be set to false, alright? So we become visible, we haven't played the sound yet, boom, we play the scary sound. Has played is true. Okay, so while we're looking at him still, that's only going to play once. Alright? And you can see here without explaining through, if you read it, you can see what's going on. If he's not visible, we still check the range. Okay, so if he's in this area and he's not within range, that line, then he can still move around, right? Let's let him move around. Okay, if he's like in this buffer here, or even if he's back out here, he's kind of within a view, I want to stop him from moving. Like I said, just in case you can see him off in the distance, you're going to have to play with the settings. Okay, while he's out in the safe zone, if he's moving around, he's still out in the safe zone, we'll just set it to false because we can't see him again. So next time we see him, we haven't played the sound, so boom, we play the sound again. It happens. Alright. I think I'm starting to make even more of a mess than this, so we're going to leave the theory and go back to everything. So we have everything set up. I suppose let's just go check it out. I've put the enemy over there. Let's just get a better view of things in relation to the world. You can kind of see the tower in that view. Now I'm hanging around there. Let's just give it a play. So the enemy is moving, but he's not going to come closer than 25 meters, which is outside of the visible range, so he's not going to do you any damage at this point in time. So let's just reduce that distance. Of course, unless you walk towards him. It's half the fun, isn't it? Right, the tower's behind me. Oh, I can see that white dot walking off the wrong way. He's south of the tower. And I've lost the tower. There's the building. Papers. The tower. You see, if you look at the top scene view, you see obviously collided with something and he was stuck for a while. He's still coming for us. Okay, let's pick up some papers. tower. He's off over this way. Oh gosh, I couldn't even see him because the model's like that. He was right there and I couldn't see him. I was wondering if I could hear the sound. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to swap back to the model that's actually coloured so I can see it. Alright, let's continue that. Let's just go see if that guy is still there. Ah, yes, I can see him now. Alright, so there's that dot working. Like I said, see, look, there's that between the 0 and the 0.08. You can see I've given it a little bit of a buffer. Because people want to publish this for widescreen, 4:3, any aspect ratio, that's why those values are open. You can choose those values for yourself, and what you do is you come in here, experiment, see how I'm looking around, and you can kind of play with that value until you go, yep, I reckon I can see him now, he should be doing damage. There we go. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up here because I don't know how long this video is gone for, and I'm a bit of a mess after the terrain died, so I'm just going to watch the video, have a review, and then we'll continue. Thanks for watching.